Welcome back to Pastor Plex Podcast. I'm your host, Pastor Pleck, and with me today is a man who, well, if you can look at his face, you actually can't see him because we are, what's the right word for that? Making sure you can't tell who he is, because he is an undercover anti-sex trafficker from across the globe. And so as our mission to reach people globally, we want to kind of give airtime to someone who is doing such powerful work, but not reveal who they are, because we need to know, and America needs to know, and the world needs to know about what Christians do to reach those that are being sex trafficked, those who are being taken against their will, and especially in war-torn countries. So we're going to call you Bruno because we don't talk about Bruno. Oh. All right. So Bruno, talk to us, introduce yourself however you want, and talk to us about how you first became a Christian.
So nice to meet you. My name is Bruno. Well, I first became a Christian. It's funny, through domestic violence.
Oh, nice.
Me and my wife, Ash, we had a fallout one night, went to jail, and a pastor came to visit me while I was there and gave me the book Wild at Heart.
Yeah.
Before that, I had been in a cage. My past, I was like a manly man, right? I was into a lot of that kind of stuff, but it
Like, man, are you talking about cage fighting? Is that what you're about to say?
yeah.
As one does.
But he gave me this book, Wild at Heart, and I started to read it and recognize myself in a lot of that I was just really insecure. And everything that I had done, which is a bunch of cool, manly stuff, really was just to show, to prove to myself and everyone else, hey, I'm a man. But in reality, Jesus was the man. And there's really no one more manly than him, in my opinion.
All right. So talk to me about what your childhood was like. Let's go back to that.
Okay. My dad was an immigrant and he met my mom in the fields like 7 times.
Like migrant worker type.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah. Apparently like 7 times because I've got 7 brothers. So, and they were never married. They ended up splitting up when I was 3. So my old man was from Mexico. He ended up getting deported, and he got back in the U.S. because he joined the Army.
Nice.
Became a citizen. He lives in Michigan. My mom also lives in Michigan, and I grew up there from a long time.
So dad's Mexican, mom is?
German.
German.
From Hamburg, actually.
Okay. Not like actually German.
German. Very German.
And they met in?
So the German side of the family owns a bunch of fields and vineyards and horses up in northern Michigan.
Huh.
And my dad worked the fields. Yeah.
Way to go.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Married up. And then, so they split, and from that point, it's very just traditional drinking, fighting. They didn't work out. My old man was really mean Mexican.
Did you grow up with him though? I mean, like, who'd you live with?
So when they split, me and my brothers stayed with my dad because my mom just kind of disappeared. We heard that she ran away and like she didn't want nothing to do with us. It turns out my dad grabbed us and he moved. And the migrant community has a way of moving where you don't know where they're moving to.
Yeah.
And we were part of that.
So where did you, I mean, like, this is crazier than the anti-sex trafficking. Keep going. Like you're on the run as like, how old?
So she left, I think, when I was 3, and we ended up reuniting when I was 8, through one of my sisters, actually. And she had gotten a hold of one of my sisters, and my sister was like, "You ran away," and she's like, "I've been looking for the kids for years." We ended up connecting, and I ended up going with her. Out of all of us, I was the only one that went with her. So, yeah.
Okay, so growing up, did you have a stepdad?
Ish. There was a man named Hobby. Really cool dude. This is crazy too. Hobby was this bigger than life character. I think he was like 6'3", but to a little kid, that's like 5 foot a million.
Yeah.
And he was really, my mom was crazy and he was crazy. And she ended up going to prison for stabbing him in the arm.
Nice.
Not prison, but I think jail.
Yeah, sure. She did some time.
Yeah. And apparently, I've just recently learned.
Did you watch him stab her or her stab him? I mean,
no, I don't know where I was.
School?
No, I think I was with my dad or something.
Okay.
I don't really remember a lot of my young growing up very well. And actually from there, I ended up moving with my grandma and grandpa, and they raised me for a long time.
The German ones or the Mexican ones?
The German ones.
Okay. Do you speak German?
Nah, no.
Ah,
Yeah, that's about
Sprechen
it.
Sie Deutsch?
Yeah, I don't sprechen Sie Dutch. But yeah. And that's kind of like, so my childhood was moving around. Just a lot of that.
okay. So a lot of mach schnell, a lot of, hurry up, get it done.
Yeah, we definitely kept stuff in line with each other. We weren't allowed to have stuff ugly and unorganized. I had issues. I did fight a lot. Ended up getting put into the military school for Brighton. In Brighton, it was like either go to Foster or go to this Brighton Academy, which is like a young boot camp military school. And I think they put me in there when I was 13.
How'd you do?
Pretty freaking great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. Ended up becoming a prize fighter because that's just what I did. I fought. And when I was young, I became a prize fighter, joined the Navy for a little bit, went out to be a corpsman. I got injured.
Fighting?
No, actually, so there's the confidence course.
Yeah.
And my first injury was running the confidence course out in Chicago. And then we were cleared to go. And then I drew a greenside billet. So I went to go through the FMF school with the field battalion, all that jazz. I got injured again, finished that, and then I got injured one more time and just couldn't do it. I was prone to injuries. So then I got out, and that's kind of, my heart has always been there because my dad taught us all, hey, fight for this country because where we came from wasn't good. So stay here, fight for this country. This is a great country.
Okay.
And that was largely my childhood. And during that time is when I met my wife. I met her before, I think I was like 17 when I met Heather.
So you came from a high trauma, high crazy background. Kind of got the structure at military school.
Yeah.
Then you graduate military school, you go to the Navy, more structure.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get out of the Navy, and then you meet your wife?
So I met her before I went, actually. In between there, I went to a school, an alternative school to get my degree or diploma. Yep. And I met her there. I remember walking through the hallway. She had this blue shirt, said Brazil. She was beautiful. I remember that moment. It was gorgeous.
And you're like, you're the one for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So then were you a Christian? No, you're not a Christian at this point. Was she a Christian?
Yeah.
Yeah. She was dating you. So probably not.
Yeah, she wasn't. She was like your average American. Yeah, I'm a Christian.
Okay,
not
got it.
Really.
All right. So then, how did you end up in jail?
So this was after the Navy and all that, and I was drinking, I was fighting, and came home, and we had a child, Heather and I, or Ash and I, Heather, and so Mila was crying, and I freaked out, and I was like, stop her from crying, because it hurt me somehow. And Heather was like, no. And I made a mistake, and I went to jail. And then it was in that jail that the pastor met me. And then,
so you drilled your wife right there?
Yeah. In my head, I'm pretty sure, I could be lying about this, I think. I was trying to hit the wall just to let out
steam.
Yeah, to be like, it's too much. I have to hit something. And so I ended up hitting Heather though.
Oh gosh.
And we almost divorced right then and there.
Yeah. Not Christian, just you're like angry, a fighter, have a baby, drilled your wife in the face.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So, all right. So then you go to the jail. The guy comes. How did he know? Was he visiting you, or was it just he just randomly visits anybody?
No, he's a pastor. He went to the jail all the time to visit everybody and talk about Jesus.
Wow.
And I had nothing better to do. I was like, hey, you want to play some chess? And he's like, yeah, sure. Let's play some chess, talk about Jesus. He ended up forming a relationship with me and gave me that book, Wild at Heart by John Eldridge.
Nice.
And when I got out of jail, I had one last fight, and Shamar Bailey. That dude beat me up so bad. And but after that, I took the advice of Eldridge, which is like, go find yourself a wild place and climb a mountain and talk to God. And I was like, God, if you're real, then do something, because I don't want to be around anymore. Like my life's been a pretty rough roll of the dice. And that's where I met the Lord. It was like a montage. Like I remember super clear. I was like, where are you? And it was like, I never left you. And I had this montage of all these sucky things in my life that had happened, but how somehow I knew that he was protecting me. And he was like, you left me And then I remember all the times when I used to punch people being like, where's your God now? You know, and I used to make fun of Christians, and I was really angry at the Lord. I would say that I was an atheist, but in reality, when I look back, it's not that I didn't believe, it's that I was just really angry. And that's where I became a Christian right then and there. I repented. I quit fighting, started studying the Bible, quit doing everything wrong that I was doing. Like I said, I had that one more fight. No, I had one more fight after that, because that's when Heather came back and was like, I was like, hey, here's my retirement fight. And we ended up shacking up that night. And from there, she was like, she said, you were so vulnerable that I knew that you had changed. But it was because if you ask her, there was pre-fight. And when you're in the fight, you go into this like hotel or stuff, and everyone's getting ready and all that. And I was just sitting there reading the Bible. I was like, I'm just here for the money. But in reality, I just want to know Jesus. And that's how I became a Christian. And somehow Heather came home, and from there we flipped a coin and moved to Austin, Texas. Started going to church and get discipled there.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's literally how the Christian thing came in.
Okay. So where were you living in Austin? Where at? Like right?
Anderson Mill in Palm Springs.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like right around the area. Okay. So you're at how many years ago was that?
It was 2008 in June.
Okay. So you're living here. You got one kid at the time or two?
We had one at that time. And then we had another child here in Austin. And from there, we had heard about missionary work, and I was on fire. You know how you are when you first hear about Jesus.
Go.
You want to tell everybody. And we heard about a group called YWAM. And so our second was born, and we moved. She was like 4 months old when we moved down to Oaxaca.
Right.
And as missionaries did.
And that's Mexico.
Yep. Southern Mexico, just above Guatemala, Chiapas, Oaxaca.
Yep.
Did a DTS there, joined YWAM, and started doing work with the indigenous and the unreached out in the jungles out there.
So what does that mean?
Yeah. So let's see. In YWAM, you do 6 months or 3 months of like classwork, and then you do 3 months of practical.
Okay.
And their practical was in the jungles. We moved in with a Christian tribe, and a lot of the other tribes are unreached. And we would go there and we would help them build stuff and try to talk with them about Jesus and take care of needs.
And what part of the world is this?
That's in Oaxaca.
That's Mexico.
That's in Mexico.
And where is that like, how far from Mexico City? Is that like super far? Or was it like Yucatan? How far from like somewhere I would know?
Yeah. So some people might know Puerto Escondido. Puerto Escondido is in Oaxaca. And then it's where the peninsula is.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about this? It's one state above Guatemala.
Okay. Got it.
So it's
way south.
Yeah. It's in the south. It's like the jungly part where
Like you're pretty much Central America.
Yeah.
Got it.
And that was where our eyes were kind of sort of open to the whole, the cartel buying stuff. Like they would protect these people, and all the indigenous would have their fields. They would grow drugs and stuff, and the cartel would be like, hey, we'll give you money if you grow drugs for us. But there was also like a hidden part of that, which we didn't recognize at the time, but that's the trait.
So your sort of introduction to human trafficking was you're with this unreached people group, and they make deals with the cartels, probably not knowing what the cartels do. They're just like, hey, grow this crop, sell it to us, we'll pay you handsomely for it. They're like, sweet. They get that, and they start rolling the drugs to the U.S. or down south or all over?
Most of it goes to the U.S.
All right, so they're sending it to the U.S., and then at what point did you find out about human trafficking?
So the clearest part, and I've actually got a picture of the little girl. We were sitting in the downtown square in Oaxaca City, and we were sitting there with our little girls playing, and we're watching this other little girl, and she had like burn marks all over her. And I remember saying to my wife, I was like, hey, what do you think happened? I'm like, I don't know. And then we saw her collecting money and all this, and we were just watching. And then we saw her do like hand gestures, and someone else hand gesture. And I remember saying, did you see that? And she goes, I think I did. And we sat back and we just watched. And we were like, someone's like, she's speaking with hand code to somebody somewhere. And that was our introduction. We were like, this girl's being forced or something. Maybe she's just doing it for her family. But that was our introduction the first time. And then we spoke with the leaders and said, hey, this is what we saw. What's that about? And he said, a lot of the children are in orphanages, and people buy the children. They'll break their fingers and burn them, and they'll put them on the streets. And they look like the children are really poor and hurt, because they are. And they get a lot more money than just your average child who's in need.
Wow. That's sad. Okay. So then you and your wife are like, we got to do something. Or like, you already are there. You're already doing something.
We actually didn't do anything about the trafficking at that point. We just sat, and in a way we were like married. We tucked it away in our heart and was like, oh, well, this is awkward. That's not cool. We're here to work with the indigenous folks. Yeah.
Okay. So you're working with the indigenous folks. You come back to Austin. You come, what happened?
So when we were there, we actually had a son.
Yep.
And he got sick because a sickness rolled through the city, and our son didn't make it. And that was really, really hard.
How old was he?
He was 1.
So wait, hold on. You had a 1-year-old son that died.
Yeah. And
what was his name? Eric, can you tell us?
We called him Naphtali because it's funny. It's so prophetic in a way because you remember that they named him that, and it was like my wrestling.
Yeah.
Right. And because it was a hard pregnancy, it was hard all over the place. But that happened, and we were shook. So we moved we moved back home. And
so you were in Mexico, have a 1-year-old that dies.
Mm-hmm.
You come back to Austin, and you recover.
Yeah. Yep. We ended up moving. No, not to Austin. We moved to Gillette. And
like Georgia?
Wyoming.
Wyoming.
Yep. And I started working in the coal mines.
You started working in the coal mines.
Yep.
Like, how did you're like, from missionary to coal miner.
Yeah. Works.
Work is work. Doesn't really matter.
It pays well. And while we were there, we got a lot of healthcare, not healthcare, but like member care, like working on just processing through stuff. Actually, this is probably, I'm glad we brought this up. This is actually how we got into trafficking, anti-trafficking. So we were there working through everything, and we started doing this organization.
Hold on. I'm going to stop recording. You had a 1-year-old son die.
Mm-hmm.
How did you, you come back to the States, you move to Wyoming, you start working in a coal mine. How did you process the fact that you just had your son, who was 1, die? How many kids did you have at this point?
2.
It just him and your daughter? No,
we had my oldest daughter, my second daughter, and then we had a son.
Okay. And so how did your daughters take that? I mean, how did you guys process that? So
my oldest daughter, it was difficult. It was difficult for all of us, right? It shook our faith. It shook a lot of stuff.
Like, how did you, when you think about death of a son, you think, okay, God, this is a sickness. You could have healed him. Walk me through how you process that.
So the hardest part, I would say, and Heather and I, this is the hardest part for us, is like, it's our fault. If we wouldn't have been in Oaxaca, he wouldn't have got sick. And that was the big thing, is like, Lord, is this because we weren't listening? Or is this because, and we carried that for a bit. He died because we were there. Like, this wouldn't have happened if we were in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of guilt to carry. But thank goodness we had a really good church and team that walked us through that. And then there's a bunch of other missionaries there, and they were walking us through, like, look, here's how to deal with guilt. Here's what the Lord says. Maybe that was your fault, but in reality, like, things are going to happen, and the Lord is good. Romans 8:28. No, it doesn't really.
For those of you who don't know, that Romans 8:20 is, it's all things work for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. So you're like, this is for good.
Yeah, that was sucky, because I think that's not the thing someone wants to hear, but. We had so many people come at it from so many directions, and we went through counseling. People were like, well, maybe your guys' life would have been worse if you stayed there, or maybe this, or maybe that, or maybe the other. And
yeah, I think that for me, the verse that sticks out, and I kind of go to this one a ton, and it's from Matthew 10, I think it's 28, 29. A sparrow doesn't fall to the ground apart from your Father's will. Meaning, if God is in charge of the lifespan of birds, He's even more in charge of the lifespan of humans. And so that's a predetermined thing that doesn't take away any of responsibility of like raising kids and doing the right thing. However, like if you're following the Lord to Mexico, God could save your child in Mexico as easily as he could save your kid in America. And the same thing in Iraq when I'd lose soldiers and I was like, should I send them in that cemetery? Should I not send them in the cemetery? I know that it's a dangerous place, but you're just wrestling with all the decisions. And so for you, was there a verse that spoke to you? Was there or just the process of God's people, the Holy Spirit working, God's word work, all three of those things kind of healing you?
I wouldn't say there was a specific verse, but what did it the most was just the community aspect. God's people came through in a really strong way.
And I think what's important to hear that, like, I don't care what struggle you're going through, do not isolate.
Yes.
Because the healing happens with people, God's people. Okay, sorry.
No, that's
I
fine.
feel like, that's like you drop that bomb, and for you probably, of course, and then I had a son died, and everyone's like, so, yeah. So your son passes, you're in Wyoming, you're working the coal mine, you're getting healing, you're involved in a good, solid church there, people are loving on you, and you're thinking, for me, I'd be like, okay, I guess we're done, I'm a coal miner now. But you were thinking, I'm going to go back to the mission field?
So we actually started an event that's still going on today. Coal miners make good money, right?
When I think about coal mining, I really don't think about good money. I think of sooty faces and guys dying of some lung disease.
Oh yeah, that's not how it is anymore. Now, so over there it's strip mining, so we weren't even in the hole.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, yeah.
I was driving.
I'm thinking of a canary, and you're like, oh, the canary's dead. We're screwed. That's all I can think of.
No, it's cool. You get to drive huge Tonka trucks and in circles all night long, get paid for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we ended up starting something called the Picnic in the Park.
Oh, nice.
And it was an evangelistic event, and it still goes on today where we were able to, and our heart never left wanting people to see who Jesus is.
Yeah.
It was really hard, and there was like times when we were super angry, but somehow that never stopped. Yeah. And so we did that. We stayed there until we had our next child, my youngest daughter. And then I was like, we're done. And I got that taken care of. And then from there, we just started dreaming again. And people started calling us like, hey, are you guys interested in going on the mission field? And, oh, no, let me go back.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is how we got into the anti-trafficking. One night when I was working, somebody called my wife and was like, hey, baby, I'm in Spearfish. You want to go over here? And she's like, And then I guess she said no. And she told me about it the next day. And then a couple days later, she got a text and her phone was next to me. And I looked, I was like, so what's this about? She's like, I don't even know what's going on. So we searched her number and there was a website called Backpage. I think it was Backpage. And there was a prostitute who gave out my wife's number in Spearfish. So when you live in a coal mining community, in an oil field community, there's a lot of prostitution.
Oh, wow.
And we didn't consider that. And all of a sudden, all of these men started calling my wife. And when you looked up the number, we saw the this and the that. And we reached out to YWAM, and there's something called Cowboys with a Mission. And they said they're really big into anti-trafficking, and Gillette, Wyoming is a hub for human trafficking and prostitution. And so we started looking into that. We got connected, and that's actually the first time we started working in anti-trafficking, just by what we did there was we would go on Backpage. Well, Heather would, because the girls are all, and that's not good for me to do.
Right.
So she would go there and she'd just report everybody all the time. And she'd police Craigslist and report. And that's how we got involved with anti-trafficking.
Okay, so then that's in the U.S.
That was in,
Or was it in Wyoming?
Wyoming.
Okay, so then you're like, okay, we can make this a ministry. I mean, like, how did you think, I know, I'll do a ministry. I mean, you're coal mining. You're making good money.
Yeah.
You're being a functional family. You're grieving the death of your son. You're moving life forward, and this thing falls in your lap. You start to walk down the path of like, how can I help these girls? You get the police involved. That might be a good time to be like, hey, we did our thing. We are good Samaritans. But the Lord calls you to
Argentina, actually.
Of course.
Yeah. And So we were like,
I don't know if you realize your life is more an adventure than anybody I know. You don't typically people go, and then I just was in Wyoming coal mining, and then I just was in Argentina. What did you do? How'd you get to Argentina?
We drove.
Wait. You drove from Wyoming through Mexico down to Guatemala, down to...
Yeah, there's actually a highway called the Pan American Highway.
Yeah.
And we drove that.
Okay. And was there a plan?
Yeah, we wanted to take the... So YWAM has a university.
Got it.
And they have counseling.
Yep.
And the cheapest school was in Argentina.
All right, so did your wife speak Spanish?
Yeah.
Okay, so you both are Spanish speakers.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so you make your way down to Argentina.
Well, that's actually part of the story is, so because we were in anti-trafficking, there are YWAM bases in every state of Mexico dang near, and country for the moment. So we drove down, and then we arrived in the first base, which is in like, what is that across this? Monterrey? Is that
Monterrey in Mexico?
Yeah. Is that the very first state there?
Yeah.
All right, so we were there, and there's a YWAM base there, and we asked them about anti-trafficking. We're like, do you guys have a problem with this? And they said, yeah. We're like, hey, how can we help? And so we started there, and we started watching, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so against illegal immigration, right?
Right.
We started watching parents giving their kids up to these coyotes so that way they could have a better future in the United States.
But they were actually being...
But they were being trafficked.
I mean, trafficked is just moving them, but they're being trafficked to a prostitution.
We don't know. I mean, so also here, something that's really big here is labor. They take the little kids and they use them for labor in working in the fields. They use them working in hotel rooms. They use them as like, these are my kids. So now I get extra taxes, tax returns from them, and they don't treat them well. And then a lot of the little girls are, of course,
right.
They fall into the sex trafficking.
Wow.
But we did that, and we went to we would work in a YWAM base until it got kind of hot, because after you start doing that, people get angry, and then we would move to the next state, and then to the next state, and the next state. And then where we kind of really got very much invested was in Panama, because we had to ship our vehicle. You can't cross the Darien Gap.
Darien Gap is
in between Panama and Colombia, where that little you have to ship your vehicle over there because there's the FARC and all of these.
What is a FARC?
The FARC are these guerrilla warfare fighters.
Of course.
And they...
Hold on. I mean, this is where, like, when you said, yeah, my story's kind of boring. Nobody really... I'm like, you're talking about terms, you might as well have just said, like, I'm on a sci-fi space station meeting the FARC. And that's like, like, so, all right, so the FARC, you're like down in Darien National Park area of like what, Costa Rica or Panama City? You're going Costa Rica, then you're in Panama, down to Panama City, and then you're entering to Colombia, and you have to get past the FARC, which is give me the FARC.
All right, so so that part sounds more impressive than it is. We bypassed those guys,
okay,
because you're not allowed to drive through there because it's dangerous.
So you put your vehicle on a ferry or something?
Yeah, so you go over in Panama and you have to ship your vehicle to Colombia.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But there was like, it somehow got caught up, and we stayed in a place because it was uber cheap in Panama City called the Backpacker Inn. And this is a kind of a crazy, this is one of the crazier stories. So the Backpacker Inn turned out to be like a brothel.
Of course.
But the rooms were cheap, and it was me and my 3 daughters and my wife. And we're like, oh God, thank you. Wow, we are in this hub for human trafficking. Like there are
So do your daughters know what's happening?
So
how old are they at this time?
I would say Hadassah was probably 3 or 4. And each one of my girls was 3 years after that. So 6 or 7, and then 9 or 10.
Was your wife just like, oh, my husband was a prize fighter, I feel no fear, or like she's just a killer herself? I mean, like, give me the...
I think probably the first one. She said she always felt secure with me.
Yeah.
We actually did get in this fight where someone tried to rob us in Nicaragua.
Yeah. Okay, tell me what happened.
You're
just north of Costa Rica. You just came through Honduras, but like through Tegucigalpa or something, and as you're going down, you cross the border, and
so we got in a hotel. We were staying in a hotel, and I had to walk the dog. So I let the dog out of the van because they wouldn't let him in the hotel. And I was talking with this guy. We're all chit-chatting. He's nice. And I'm like, Jesus loves you. And I put the dog in the car and he sticks me. Whack! And he's like, I don't know. He starts yelling. And I'm like, well, unfortunately for him, I like to fight too. And so I went and I don't remember what happened, but I remember that another guy came around. This is actually nuts too. Another guy came around the back of the van and I came out on top. I won the fight really well. The police ended up coming and I got in trouble. And they wanted to search the vehicle, and we had extra funds under our seat, and the police stole our funds.
Of course they did.
And we didn't know about that until we hit like Panama, and we were like, well, let's pay for this. And we're like, go under the seat and get the stuff. And we're like, where is it? And I'm like, oh, that must have been why. Because the police were really quick to be like, you're in trouble, you're going to go to jail, this, that, and the other. And then like, oh, you're fine, go ahead and leave. And I was like, oh, thank goodness.
Well, you just paid yourself off. Like how much are we talking?
Like $900.
Okay.
Which
so not like thousands, but but a lot
for a missionary.
Right. Yeah. Like that's probably that could feed you for a month.
It could have got us into South America.
Okay. So you get through Nicaragua after. Now, did you put the guy in the hospital? What'd you do to the dude that?
Oh, don't know. They were still down. The one guy was down pretty hard.
Did you smash his head against the asphalt? Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
foot stomp. Yeah.
Foot stomp.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. Okay. So you take that guy out. He learns not to rob. And then you go on your merry way.
Yeah.
Okay. So you and your wife, you're heading down to the brothel in Colombia.
So we end up in Colombia. That's in Panama City.
Okay. Sorry.
So we were at there, and it was I sincerely what cemented the rest of everything that we did. I remember my oldest daughter she goes, Dad, why is she doing what she's doing? Because we were really friendly with all the girls.
Why is she selling herself for sex?
Yeah, why is she wearing, what she actually said, Dad, why is she wearing that? And I said, go and ask her, darling. And she went up to her and she says,
And your daughter speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
Everyone speaks Spanish.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And she's like, my dad says you shouldn't dress like that. And this girl looks at her. And it was amazing. She started crying. And she's like, Mija, she's like, don't do this. She's like, I don't dress like this. And she kind of like got ashamed. And she told her, look, I don't want to do this. And I don't this and that. And that right there cemented it for us. We're like, you don't want to do this. I know of a safe house over here. We can get you out of here, but you can't tell anybody. And she actually took us up on the offer.
Wow.
And that was probably the first person that we got out of the trade.
Okay. So where'd you take her?
So I can't say.
Okay, you took her somewhere out of Colombia?
It was in Panama, but we took her.
You took in Panama to a different place.
Yeah, out of Panama City, to a place where there's a mission organization that has safe houses around, and we took her to one of the.
Did it give her like a new identity or whatever?
Yeah, they did. So what they do is they took her, they got her, and then they teach her. They take her to school. They teach her a trade. They work with. There's a lot of doctors. Because when you get out of that, there's a lot of disease involved and stress, and so doctors and so trafficking is interesting because I'm not sure what people think about trafficking, but there are a lot of different sides of it. There's law enforcement, which you almost always work with law enforcement.
Right.
There's the investigation team. There's a cyber team, and then there's the survivor care.
Okay.
Right. And each one of those are super duper important. And so we got her to the survivor care aspect of it, right? Yeah. And but it was there that we knew like this is what we're gonna do for we prayed this prayer that was like, Lord, if there's a place where this is going on and you don't have someone to go, send me. And we must have been reading Isaiah or something.
Nice.
And from there on, that's kind of like what we did.
All right, so you go. That was in Panama City. Mm-hmm. You go down to Colombia.
Yeah.
Do it again there.
Yeah. Yep.
So like you just went to YWAM base after YWAM base and be like, hey, we do this too, and we're on the team. And like, who was supporting you? Like, how did you have food?
Yeah. So the church supports missionaries. So what happens, people out there in podcast land, is you tithe, and that tithe goes to the church, and the church supports mission. I mean, of course, there are bills, but that money goes to support missionaries, and that's how we were able to do that.
Okay, so how were you able to share Christ in those times? Or was that hard because they were kind of already Catholic? Or
No, not at all. It was really easy. We would go out there to the girls in the street, and I'd come up with a coffee and be like, "Hey, here you go. How you doing tonight?" And she'd be like, "I'm good. Well, you want some of this? You want some of this?" I'm like, "You're beautiful. I appreciate that, but I want your soul." And they'd be like, "Oh, that's scary." I'd be like, "Yeah, but it's not. Jesus loves your soul, and you're so much more than this." And we would just create relationships. Actually, there was a time when I was walking down the street, and this one girl, she started yelling, "Groserías." What's that word?
Grocery.
Vulgarities.
Okay, like cuss words.
She's like, "Hey, baby, come on over here. You want some of this?" And blah, blah, blah. And her friend walked up and she's like, "No, mija, no, not her. Not him. Don't do it with him. He's our friend."
Yeah.
And I walked over there. I was like, "No, I'm sorry. I don't want that. Would you like some coffee? Are you hungry? What? I don't have silver and gold, but I got some Jesus."
Yeah.
And that's how we did that. And we would always let them know, be like, "Hey, we love you. We this."
So you be the one interacting.
Yeah.
And what about your wife? What would she do?
She's more of the survivor care thing.
Okay.
And this is before we knew how anti-trafficking worked, right? We didn't realize that you're supposed to be working with law enforcement and that there's this. We were just
you were just like on the streets, baby, like vigilante evangelism, saving people.
Yeah. Anti-trafficking Batmans.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
All right, I love it.
And that's kind of what we did. And we would go out there and we'd talk with them and this and that. And that's why we had to leave so many states so fast, because we were not doing it. We would people would meet us and threaten us, or we'd find our tires be slashed.
Yeah.
And then we had to leave the country.
Okay, so you get down to Colombia, and then you're down to what? Peru, then Bolivia, and then eventually Paraguay, then to Argentina. Tell me how this happens. How did you eventually get down to Argentina, and then what happened in Argentina?
Yeah, so we actually in Colombia, we picked up 2 Colombians, also YWAMers, and they were like, "Hey, can you just take us to Argentina?" And we're like, "Of course." At one point, we had like 9 people in the van and a dog, and it's way too much. But, Jesus, so you do things that you normally wouldn't. But we literally just went from base to base, being like, "Hey, we'll sit out in public and we'll monitor and we'll look and try to find as much of this prostitution stuff as we can until, we think it's not a good idea, and then we'll move to the next country." And then as that happened, they started, through the network, they started knowing, like, "Hey, there's some people coming. Get yourselves ready. They're coming over there to work in that country and that country." And then we ended in Argentina, where we did our school for biblical counseling.
Okay, so kind of like, hey, we're going to this biblical counseling school. On the way there, let's knock out some missionary work.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saving people. People are coming to Christ. They're leaving their lives of being sex trafficked and being abused, and you and your wife and your daughters are like, we are moving the kingdom forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're in Argentina, you go to school for counseling, it's in Spanish, and then you're like, we are now going to go where?
So we actually did 2 schools. We lived in Argentina for an extended period of time, but we did anti-trafficking because that was when the Olympics went to Brazil.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And the Olympics brings a lot of that around. So we worked the Olympics.
So you went to Brazil. Did you learn Portuguese, or did you know enough?
We speak Portuñol, which is like Spanglish.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so there's a saying, right? Portugués es español mal hablado, which just means Portuguese is just spoken Spanish. Yeah. So we can get along. And so we were there and doing that. And then we had a call while we were working. No, we met a member who was like, "Hey, are you aware with what's going on in Africa?" And we're like, no, tell me about it. I'm down. And they said, "Oh, there's a civil war in Sudan."
Wow.
And we're like, "Oh, well, let's do it." And so we shipped our van from Argentina to Florida, went back to the U.S. to do some counseling that we really needed. And then within 8 months, we're in Africa. We first moved to Uganda to figure out how are we going to move our family into Sudan and South Sudan. And then we decided that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine that is, he ministers the Sudanese army.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
It is. Yeah. And so actually, you know the machine gun preacher guy?
Yeah.
He's not far from where we live. We got to meet and we talked and here's some coffee.
That's a great movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Okay. All right. So you now are in Africa. You're in Uganda speaking Swahili.
Nope. So Uganda, they speak Luganda, which is another funny story. When they told us we were going to go there, we learned Luganda, which is the national language outside of English.
Yep.
It turns out the area where we were moving to speaks Lugbara. They don't even speak Luganda. So we spent like 8 months learning the wrong language.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But, you know, if I'm nearly free, it just means can I have 5 pieces of bread?
Nice. All right, so you get to Uganda. So you're not like on Lake Victoria, are you?
No,
Okay.
we were up there on the border of South Sudan.
Okay, yeah. So that like the Victoria, my buddies were there, and that's where they could speak Swahili because it connects Tanzania and Kenya.
Yep. Well,
All right.
all the military, they all speak Swahili.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
Because
that
East
is
Africa.
East Africa. Yeah.
Okay. So now you're in Uganda. You're thinking about how am I going to get into South Sudan, and how am I going to be a part? Are you carrying weapons at this point?
So that's the introduction to all of that. We show up there and we're like, hey, we're anti-traffickers. And people are like, no, not really.
Not here.
Yeah. And so then I started meeting a bunch of people. And in that field, there's a lot of ex-military. And we bonded over my brief time in the Navy. And they sent me back home to do some training. Then we went.
Wait. You alone home, or you as the fam home?
Me alone home.
So your wife and your kids are hanging out in Uganda while you're going back for a 2-week course on firearms training, or what?
It was actually a 2-month course on firearms interrogation and all of this different stuff. But my wife and kids were back with YWAM doing mission work there.
Okay.
Which in hindsight was the beginning of a bad thing.
Why?
I shouldn't have left them behind.
Okay.
It was the beginning of a precedent set that eventually probably tore us apart. Yeah.
Why so? Why say that?
Because I'm divorced now.
Yeah, right. But like, because that was all part of the mission, right?
I thought it was.
Guys also get deployed in the military for 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
So what made your redeployment for 2 months different? What was the part that you feel like was not healthy?
I think it wasn't healthy because roles were pushed on her that shouldn't have been. And then slowly, we started working different roles and different roles. And
reintegration usually creates a huge crisis.
Well, and it all culminated to the time when we were in Ukraine, right? Okay. We had completely different ministries in Ukraine where she was doing one thing, I was doing another. And it was okay because slowly from that time in Uganda, we started separating and running different ministries.
Yeah, got it.
But it meshed really well until later on when it didn't.
Okay, so you're still in Uganda. Do you ever get to South Sudan?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and you start doing what there?
So I was attached to a team because I was medically trained and my medical training was pretty good. And how would I say this? So the girls would stay on this side, and I was attached to a unit that was doing extractions. And we would fly over there and do extractions. And there were 3 levels.
When you say fly over, helicopter, small airplanes? Were you jumping in? Were you fast roping? What were you doing?
So the planes would come, and they would touch down, and there would be a security perimeter. There were 3 levels. There's an outer security perimeter, an inner security perimeter, and then there's the people on the plane getting the kids onto these helicopters. And then the helicopter would take off. And then the convoy would come in, and these guys would all slowly come back onto the convoy while we took the kids, and they would back out.
Wow. Okay. All right. So you're doing ministry. You're killing it. Tell me about like that. We're going to wrap this up here in like 10 minutes, and we have to come back for part 2. But like, give me the part where you make a difference in South Sudan, or like what was the biggest win in South Sudan?
So the biggest win in South Sudan, I would say, was I have currently, even till right now, I have 2 daughters that we support full time, and they're missionaries in South Sudan now.
Wait, they're now?
Right now. They're not literally my daughters, but they're Sudanese girls.
Okay.
And love them. They became my daughters.
You still talk to them?
Yeah. And so we're still really hard.
Like, did you rescue them?
We did. Yeah. How
did you do that? Like, what happened?
They were just part of a load of, it came out wrong. They were part of a load of kids that we brought over, and we dropped them off at the UN tent over near Beatty Beatty. And these two girls were so afraid. And they're like, oh, picked them up. I was like, hey, it's okay. It's good. And so when you drop them off at a UN tent, it sounds, okay. I'm only giving you the highlights.
Yeah.
This stuff is full of a lot of boring and a lot of paperwork and a lot of admin and a lot of just, So during the, I had the girls, we were at the tent. My kids came and they were playing with each other because my wife and kids are great. They're part of the survivor team, right? They're part of that therapeutic team. And it's like when you just instantly fall in love and you're like, I love these girls, but we couldn't adopt them because you can't adopt them because you don't know who their parents are. They might have parents. There's a lot of laws there. And so as they were going through the tents, like they had to get medical checked and paperwork, and they go over here and there's like indexing, trying to find families because there's a lot of people. And we just attached to these two girls. And then we ended up getting them over to Rhino Camp because it was close to where our family stayed, and just loved on them. And then eventually they moved with us to Arua.
Arua? Where's that? Is that South Sudan still?
Nope, that's northern Uganda where my family was staying.
Okay, got it. All right, so they stay with you. How long were you there before you left?
We were there for 8 months. And we were there for 8 months, and then we did some other stuff, and it was high risk out in the Nuba mountain ranges. But we went to Nuba for a little bit.
Where's that?
It's in between Sudan and South Sudan.
Of course.
The Nuba mountain range.
Yeah.
It's that's where they're actively trying to kill. North Sudan is actively trying to genocide all the Nubans. There's Darfur. Everyone knows about Darfur.
Oh yeah, Darfur is like darkness.
Not a lot of people are realizing that the same thing is happening in the Nuba mountains.
Okay.
And those are the Christians. So we went over there in order to support the Christians and help with all this and all that. And again, sounds exciting, but we were just there having coffees and talking about Jesus.
Except that there's people trying to kill you.
Yeah, there's that.
All right, I'm going to pause you. We're going to come back because I want. How long before do you get to the actual Ukraine?
We ended up moving to Ethiopia when they had that conflict with. And then we.
Of course you did.
Then we went to Thailand because of all the Burma stuff. Came back and then we moved to Ukraine.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pause you right there. We're going to come back. This definitely needs a part 2. We definitely need way more time with you. And
I do want to put this out there.
Yeah.
This is the highlight stuff. It's so.
Yeah, it's so boring. I understand.
In reality, it kind of is.
Hey, if you want to live a really boring life, saving everybody in the world, traveling around the globe, talk to Bruno.
I make it sound exciting. It's
so boring. All right. Hey, listen, we're going to come back. We're going to get to Bruno next time. So like lock this in, stay tuned, come back. Or if you just came on this late, you can just hit play on the next one. But man, I'm really excited about this. If you got any questions for us between now and the next time, just text in at 737-231-0605. We'd love your questions on sex trafficking. Love your questions on how to change the world in a very boring way by traveling the world and saving people's lives. All right. Thanks for watching From Our House to Yours. Have an awesome week. Go Pershing.